Hi, everyone. This is our first experience with an edX conference. We're very new to the community. You probably have been talking about going from offline to MOOCs, and then from MOOCs to nano degrees. In our case, we want to take a next step, and we want to go from a passive audience to a very active crowd and community. Let me tell you about myself. I'm the founder of a company called Opino. We do innovation consultancy. And we were born 8 years ago. We grew organically from 1 consultant to 150 consultants. But during this period, we've also done a lot of community building. We do a lot of publishing. We are the publishers of the MIT and Harvard magazines in Spanish, MIT Technology Review and Harvard Business Review. So after a few years, we realized that we have a crowd of 300,000 readers, which are very smart. So usually the comments on the articles are better than the article itself. So our challenge was to turn that community of readers that was silent into a community of consultants and be able to grow the first crowdsourced consulting community where we actually mix the traditional model with the new model. So we are going to do, or we're still doing, the client engagement and the project management, but more and more the individuals who participate as experts in our projects come from the crowd. So we've been digitalizing every single step of the process. Now we can recruit, we can sign digital contracts with our consultants, we can manage projects digitally. We have Wikipedia sites, private sites for the knowledge involved in every project. And we recently included Open edX as a tool for training of our consultants. And we're basically using edX in 2 senses. The first one is we need to certify that every one of the people who is participating in a project complies with certain rules. For example, you need to pass a risk management course on the job of consulting, privacy, conflict management, or conflicts of interest. So those are mandatory courses that we have you take. And once you take a course and you respond to the few questions that we ask you at the end, that travels to your profile as a consultant as a certification. So you get certified with a certain date that you were aware of these rules and you actually watch the video and comply with it. The second way we are certifying our consultants is on the job, on the project. So in order to come in work for a project in big data or in aerospace, you need to maybe get a certain, a couple of few small skills to be able to join the project with good pace. So that's another way we are documenting everything we do. 2 things happened also on the process. The company also runs lots of competitions, awards. We publish many more magazines. We run also training programs for other people. And we realized that we can add a small box on every one of our digital channels saying, given that you are buying a ticket to attend a conference or given that you are participating in this competition, you must be familiar with this field. So would you like to participate as an expert in consulting engagements in your field? And this is how we are also bringing in thousands and thousands of potential consultants to our projects. We believe this is the way consulting is going to go. Open platforms where the traditional face of consulting is preserved, so privacy, the capacity to engage, have a solid project manager that interacts with the client, but more and more having experts from all over the world interacting on different engagements where the knowledge of the company can also rotate faster. And the business model is a lot more cost efficient, so you become very competitive in terms of cost. This is our very first experience with edX. We probably have a lot of questions and challenges. We've been struggling to and help working a lot on building single sign-on engines to be able to communicate with the different platforms we have, struggling with responsive. So I think we've done a pretty good job on building responsive interfaces. Because most of our interaction is through cell phones, and also bringing education to the smallest example. So to give you an idea, we are sending regular newsletters to our employees, for example, like on this new regulation that you should be aware of. So instead of doing that, we now record it as a hangout, and we add a few questions at the end of the video. So if you watch the video, respond to the questions, it travels to your profile, so you know who has taken that newsletter kind of course, and who's aware of the news that you sent out. So we are able to update the community and follow, with very good analytics, what persons in the community have been, are aware of everything we do and comply with all the changes and regulations we are adopting. So that's it. Thanks.
Anyone have any questions? We have time for one.
Whoever wants to follow us, it's on opino.com, opinno.com, and thank you for hosting us.
Okay, we'll get going. I've got a plane to catch in about an hour and a half, so definitely only need 5 minutes on this one. So my name's Kevin Pawsey. I'm the Global VP for Digital and Product Development at Global Knowledge. What do we do at Global Knowledge? So we're the worldwide leader in IT training. We do about $400 million a year. We've been around for 30 odd years, and we've only just got to digital learning. So we've been traditionally classroom-based, virtual-based, using things like Adobe Connect. We run a public schedule globally. We also do private events for large corporations and certain subject matters. Mainly focused in North America, it's about 50% of the business, and Europe and Asia Pacific is about another 50% of the business. So I've worked on about 6 learning platforms or LMSs, so this is new for me as well. So I'm a edX rookie. We made the decision to go down the edX path rather than actually build our own proprietary system about 6 months ago. So we're here to learn and sort of get any sort of useful experiences from these conferences. So yeah, we've got fairly sizable scale. We think this is going to be one of the challenges that we have. So we've got over 3,000 courses today that we're actually in the process of learning how to build using XBlocks into Open edX. So we've also built our own engineering business to actually understand what it is that we need to do. So we've never actually had an engineering team before, so we're actually spooling up new skills and knowledge actually within Global Knowledge. And we've got instructors that we have to train on how to use edX as well. And we're really interested in how we can sort of blend the classroom with the digital. So the ILT, very established. Virtual ILT, this is via Adobe Connect, delivers about 50% of our courses today. And in reality, less than 1% of our revenues are online today. So we don't think the instructor-led is going to disappear anytime soon, but we can definitely see some trends in the market, which is why I've been there for about 8 months and convinced the board that Open edX was a way forward. So we can actually see there's lots of sort of changes in the industry that we're in. Very much sort of 2016 is where we feel that we are today, but the sort of real-time, always-on mission is what we're aiming for, and that's what we're looking to try and achieve with Open edX. So why did we choose Open edX? And I had to actually convince our board pretty strongly on this, because they actually invested $8 million on a failed LMS. But it's also going to cost a significant amount of money. I think they thought that Open edX meant we got everything for free and we could just take it and be ready to go. So I've had to convince them this is also going to need quite a lot of investment to get where we need to get to. So video is important, but we know from the talk yesterday, you can't just give someone 45 minutes of video and expect them to be engaged. So we're looking at what we can do with video to make it much more engaging and interesting. Mobile, critical, really important. So interested to find out what's going on with tablet devices, not just phones. Analytics, both at an individual employee level, so they can actually track what their progress is, but also for the enterprise. We do feel that online instructor support on demand is going to be really useful. We actually have it today, so how can we actually build the tools and functionality to achieve that? Badging, we've heard about that, really important. And communities of collaborative learning. We know that the technology industry, these guys live on forums, and we want to sort of make sure that we've got that kind of functionality there and available. Industry standards, we've got to be compliant. And what's really interesting about Open edX is that we see it's a proven user experience with very flexible content development tools that we can hopefully extend. So the fact that we don't just have to take Open edX as it is, and we can look to actually extend that beyond what that core platform does is really interesting. And the fact that there is a developer community, like events like this, is fantastic. And the pedagogical expertise is really important as well. International, because we are an international business, we're in a significant amount of countries, and we actually think by being online we should be able to get even more traction in countries that we're not in today. And it is an engaging learning experience. I actually had to take the board through an open edX instance so they could see what they're going to get for their money. And we've got to go live on the 21st of September. So even though we work in a very agile way, we had to put a stake in the ground in terms of giving a date when we had to go live. So we're not a technology company, but we are a training content company that needs to operate in the digital world. Open edX has significant cost, time, maintenance and learning experience advantages. And we're looking to collaborate on how we can extend Open edX into the corporate learning market. So I won't go through all that, but you can find me on LinkedIn, email me if you guys have got some ideas on how you can help our journey. We'd love to hear as well. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Vincent and Alberto. We are from the same team, Digital Learning Production at IND, a business school located in Lausanne in Switzerland. So we are focusing on digital learning production. So we'd like to share our experience of Open edX, and actually we have a similar path to Kevin. So we had a home-built platform and we moved to Open edX. For the same kind of reason you mentioned. So first of all, we just would like to highlight a few differences compared to MOOCs with the digital learning experience we have in executive education. Basically, it's high touch, the course we are providing, which requires personalized feedback and a lot of attention. It's also small cohorts, and also it's also for group networking, so it's not anonymized groups. As well, participants also require a lot of support and administration as such.
So how is Open edX? I mean, what could we use out of the box for it? Beyond the fantastic learning experience and interface, we found very useful all the polls, surprisingly useful the tag clouds for triggering a discussion. We are now using peer grading, which the only problem is that it's anonymized, but it's more effective than forums for them to exchange ideas and to have knowledge building. And we are now using teams, which also we used to assign them by hand to the teams, but now we are letting them find their way around, and that also seems to be working very well.
So what we needed to enhance on top of the existing out-of-the-box platform. So actually, we started for the participant experience. As we said, it's very high touch. So we've started to transform and modify the SGA, the existing one, so that it can be used as a place to share submissions. As well, also we introduce instructor feedback on top of the different, so comment feedback and an annotated file. As well, what we have done also, we created another X block which allows participants to record a video, and it's a trackable element, so it's trackable X blocks, so it can be seen and tracked on the progression. Also, we created a link to our internal platform so that participants can see the participants list with a picture and information to connect to each other.
The rest of the work was done to facilitate managing these small cohorts by the learning managers, or TAs, however you want to call them. So we began, our first task was to enhance this. This is the grading part of the SGA, which had this, the table got broken because of long feedback. We added statistics at the top of how many people have submitted. We added possibility to group by cohorts, export the results in Excel, and also the possibility for the learning managers to record a video feedback right there on the spot, and then send an email taking the participants to the place where the feedback is. We also engraced the gradebook with sortable columns and the amount of activity that each participant has on their forum.
So the potential enhancement area we found is basically one of the first things is to have a display name for the participants, because the username cannot be changed and it's quite painful. API to do massive enrollment, progression page, and also regarding the notification. It could be, we could have more option on that space. Overall, it was really, we really grateful to move to OpenEdX because the continuous improvement on that platform. Also, with the fact that it's open and we can develop X blocks, it allows us to address our specific needs. So the overall experience with participants really was excellent. So which helped us as well to move to another step from just not only online but also blended. So what we propose is for other business schools who would like to join this new channel created yesterday evening with Ned, so you can join and start a discussion here.
Oh, no. I see that you have a lot of customization over OpenEdX. Which version are you using, and how is the updating from one version to another?
Yeah, okay, so we have, basically we have one developer working for us, and well, it actually implements the X blocks we wanted, and each time there is a new version, so we test it on the new version before. But basically it's quite straightforward. Basically the changes we have made doesn't necessarily need a lot of redevelopment on top of it. It's quite smooth. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so hi everyone, I'm Chinmay Nivargi. I'm from Applied Materials, and we're switching gears a little bit, going to talk about our pilot experiment with gamification to improve user engagement and course completion. So a little bit again about who we are. For those of you who don't know, we are a leader in materials engineering solutions. So probably every device that you have has gone through an applied materials chamber that looks kind of like that. We are a 50-year-old company, so celebrating our 50 years this year. And so gamification is sort of a new concept, right? Like most of us have probably seen this Gartner hype cycle, some version of it. I have plotted where we were with gamification in different years, and in 2015 and 16 they just took it out, right? So maybe we are languishing somewhere in that trough of disillusionment, or maybe we are somewhere near the plateau of productivity, but we wanted to test it in our environment. So because OpenEdX itself was new, but gamification in general in OpenEdX, in the learning environment and beyond, is something that was a very interesting experiment. So our instance is called AppliedX, so just a very brief overview. It's self-hosted. It's for engineering, technology, business, training and learning, and we have 200 courses. 100,000 plus instances have been completed in less than 2 years. So we are a global organization as well. So where does gamification come in, right? Like we noticed that a lot of in our initial push, a lot of the courses were very video heavy, sort of leveraging traditional, what I call traditional now, MOOC philosophies, and now we are learning a lot about using learning theory and learning science to improve the experience. But initially we noticed that a lot of engagement was just in terms of videos, and sometimes there wasn't as much completion rates in the requisite amount of time that we would need. And so we came up with this system to encourage positive behavior on the platform, right? So to encourage course completion, course engagement, collaboration, discussions in the courses. So positive behaviors like watching videos, comments, sharing courses, doing quizzes, enrolling and completing in courses. We wanted to reward that in some way. And so some of the traditional gamification mechanics is something that we wanted to incorporate in the platform. And this was incorporated as badges, leaderboards, statuses. Now, a caveat is that we are very early in this pilot, but it's working decently well. Just a snippet of what the user sees as a dashboard. We implemented it as a microservice. So the idea was that it's not just courses that need gamification, but also other enterprise applications need to plug into this gamification service, right? So you can have a holistic vision of rewarding more positive behaviors, because in the end, it's what is done on the job that matters, how the courses get implemented and adopted. And so essentially what it was is it's a event emitter and processor. So events emitted on the applied X, which is the open edX instance again, are digested by this events processor and consumer. And then we design admin and APIs to connect to this consumer, right? And so as you can imagine, course completion, you have web and mobile dashboards for the users to get the information about their statuses or badges and things like that. But you can also plug in other integrations for other enterprise applications that you may use. So this was really key for us, and on our roadmap, we have a lot more integrations being planned. Some things about our pilot. So we designed this nice collateral for one of the pilots that we ran. Basically, it was a training session, a free personal training session that we encourage people to really do courses for. And there were some caveats, some successes, a little bit of a challenge in getting people to know everything, to know about this as well. But about 5% people completed the activity in a traditionally slow month, which is December. And 35% of the active users were really participating in this. So it was quite successful. Some lessons we learned is that gamification was implemented on the open edX platform, and it works. And you can talk to the developers for that. Build your integrations into your design and architecture. That is really key. And think hard about system design and sustainability, because gamification is nothing as a standalone software piece. It's all about collateral, branding, marketing, leadership, right? So that is really key. That's something that we learned for this. And we want to contribute this back, so stay tuned for open sourcing some of the software elements that we've developed as for gamification. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to be here in front of you today to talk about how to implement marketing and communication techniques using Open edX. As the majority of you may know, by default, Open edX have bulk mailing capabilities, but within the context of a course, of a specific course. And if we have big Open edX platform, we have the opportunity to reach thousands of users all over the world who are interested in our platform because they have registered users in there. There are infinite reasons to send and track email campaigns, and they can have both educative and commercial motivations. We may want only to make a campaign about a new promotion of courses in our platform, or we may want to look at the users who are having problems in activities or to finish their courses, and we want them to be successful. During this presentation, I'm going to use 3 basic examples of the application of this issue. What if we want to send a campaign of new courses to all the users who are registered in our platform? In this case, our team, the BeDjango team, have implemented a new feature using the existing source code in the bulk mailing capabilities within a course. Here you can see a real use case, which is of a client we are working for. In this moment, it is the INTEF Educalab platform, which is an Open edX, which is the special training for the teachers here in Spain in the public education. They manage around 40,000 users in the platform. Well, it is not the 22 million which manage edX, but more or less it's the same. The administrators in the platform only have to make a click on the link that they have in the header, and they access directly to a simple form where they can select a template for the email message. They have to set the subject, and they write the body of the communication that they want to send. And they also can use HTML-rich formats. It's that simple, no more. Another example of application could be, what if this time I don't want to reach all the people in the platform? Maybe I have microsite, and I want to segment the users to send a specific campaign to a specific microsite in a specific target language, because we also have different language in a big platform in OpenEdX. Well, our tool is use a dynamic templates catalog in which you can introduce new templates. You can modify the existing ones in order to be able to create the corporate identity of the microsite, and also to adopt the language, which is the language of the target users. Finally, we are also able to know to identify which are the users in that microsite. The last example that I would like to share with you is, what if this time we want to send a mail message to a specific selected users, but within the course, which is the same that already has OpenEdX. Maybe we are looking for the users who are having troubles with specific activities, or maybe they have forgotten that the expiration date of the course is near. So we have created some features that are accessible from the instructor panel in the CMS, and we have extract CSV files with extra information. For example, we have a field which is the last access to that course, so we can see if, for instance, a user has been 3 weeks without entering in the platform, and we can send them a reminder to finish the course. We also have implemented forms to filter the user for all the personal data information that we have in the platform. And also, if you have a list of email, you can use it by writing them directly separated by commas. We have to be very responsible with this feature in order to not make spam, okay? We always respect the decision of the user of not receiving this kind of notification. We use the Mandrill and MailChimp services in order to not be marked as spam, and also to have a measure of the success of our campaigns. This has been always some of the example on how we can implement communication and marketing techniques. In case you want deeper information or more details, here you have my contact data. Thank you very much.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Noor, and I'm from Malaysia. I'm from the University of Teknologi, Malaysia. And practically, what I am sharing with you guys today is part of my PhD research. I'm basically doing a research on building a conceptual business model. Okay, but for today, basically, I'm sharing part of the business model that I've built and I've developed and shared during eMOOC 2016 last year. And this is actually the social engagement framework for MOOC accessibility in higher education. Practically, the daunting part when it comes to MOOC platform is not how many courses that you can take, but basically how are you going to actually match which course that is suitable for you, and at the same time making sure that the courses that you develop is cost compliant, as well as something which is sustainable for the institutional as well as the organization. So basically, based on my research, I discovered that there are several elements as well as factors that are very important, and it is very integral in making sure the sustainability of MOOC in a certain institutional based on the demographic, based on the values, based on the interests of a certain institution as well as the users. So basically, let me share with you, the one in the middle itself, the Venn diagram there are three main parts. The first one is the social sustainability. What I meant by social sustainability, meaning that we are actually trying to create a sustainable system where the users as well as the instructors are able to create a dynamic interaction. We are not merely talking about just a virtual interaction. Practically, we are trying to create a dynamic using asynchronous as well as synchronous discussion. It can be social media. It can actually go beyond the platform itself. So I think this is something that any platform or even edX can consider. And at the same time, we are looking at the cognitive sustainability. What I meant by this is that we want to study how the users as well as the instructor make use as well as utilize the information as well as the resources that they use. Because most of the time it's just videos. And you know, sometimes users, they get bored just watching at videos. So we wanted to actually study how we can create a more dynamic as well as a more interactive resources that enable a cognitive interaction and effectiveness between the users as well as the completion rate of the courses. I think this is one of the main dilemma as well as that is plaguing the institutional success. And then the third one is the constructive sustainability. What I'm looking at here is basically looking at beyond just the completion rate of MOOC in institution level. What we're talking about is what can the users do with the MOOC that they have completed. Are they going to be able to use the MOOC and the accreditation that they use in order for them to bank in another prospects in career advancements? And this is actually we are actually creating like an avenue for institutional cooperation between edX perhaps as well as other corporations that are willing to find suitable candidates in order to fill the position. So we felt that instead of just completing any courses, we are creating an avenue to help corporation find the right candidate for their corporation. And I think this is something that we can actually look into very thoroughly. And as you can see, the whole ecosystem that we are creating right now is basically gel by these three elements. We are, as you know, when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about, it's not just ecosystem. We're talking about the ethos. We're trying to create an environment where it is robust, compliant, as well as dynamic and flexible enough for the users as well as the corporation and institution to create a very dynamic engagement with each other. And when we're talking about connection here, when we talk about connection, we're not just talking about someone who's paying or merely just signing up just to get something. We're trying to get connection, saying, hey, I actually learned something from here and I would like to share with someone else. I think this is something that we would like to create by talking about sustainability, because we want to empower the users as well as the instructor. And ownership is very important. I think just now, Nick Van Dam had actually highlighted this in his talk just now, saying that when the users or even the instructors, when they feel the ownership on the information that they share, this is something which is will create a more sustainable effect when it comes to MOOC success in the future. And as you can see, the whole ecosystem is actually being there's interlock between these four main elements that you can see: the infrastructure as well as the financial, because we are talking about something to create revenue with the intervention of transnational let's say, partnership. And then we are talking about values here. We are talking about people before strategy. And this is something that I think when we talk about social engagement, we can actually create something which is more people-friendly rather than just talking about deliverance of a course. That's all. Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. If you have any other questions for our speakers, feel free to reach out to them. We're a little bit early, but that means we have a little bit more time to mingle and get to the next session. So thank you for coming today. Hope you enjoyed it.